Our next video is taken from some very interesting leaked emails. Emails written by Ramesvara Prabhu. Perhaps at that time I think it was Ramesvara Swami, or maybe he became later. Ramesvara Prabhu was, at that time, he was perhaps the leading BBT trustee. In 2014, December, some emails written by Ramesvara Prabhu to other devotees were leaked out, and these emails contain some very, very interesting information, insider information. And actually these emails were leaked out by Rupanuga Prabhu. Rupanuga Das, he was also a BBT trustee and one of the earliest disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So let us see these emails and letters. You can see them here. They are also posted at the end of this article. I just want to show you that we have the emails here, and I have covered the specific emails so that no one can write to these devotees, just to be respectful. You can see all the emails here, and we're going to read some sections here that Ramesvara Prabhu he wrote, which shed some light. They shed some important light on the changes of Srila Prabhupada's books and what actually happened at the time they chose to make these changes. So, confidential emails from Ramesvara leaked December 2014. Just recently, 3 confidential emails were leaked and posted on Facebook. They reveal that Ramesvara Prabhu thinks what he thinks about the changes made to Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gita, the editing policies of the BBT International, and they shed light on what happened when the GBC and BBT trustees quote-unquote reviewed the 83 Gita. Below are some quotes that will rock the boat, but please visit the website at the end of this article to see all 3 emails in their entirety and thus get the full picture. Quotes from confidential email number 1. So this is Ramesvara Prabhu writing. The problem with responsible publishing paper, and this responsible publishing paper is a paper written by the BBT International, is that it is simply not the entire body of instruction, and its critics point out that it is one-sided and obviously leaves out many of Prabhupada's cautionary instructions against unnecessary change. So the responsible publishing paper is BBT International's attempt, or one of their attempts, to justify their changes to Srila Prabhupada's books. That analysis which Dravida Prabhu left me with, left me with my deepest concern. If the changes didn't have substantial merit, but were made anyway, then regardless of the justification of quote-unquote making it better, the door, the quote-unquote change disease, as Srila Prabhupada called it, had been dangerously opened for anything to happen in the future after we are long gone. And again, the Lilamrita interviews I found tell of Srila Prabhupada's direct instructions regarding the size of the books, the artwork to be kept in the books, etc. Things that have already been changed so many times in the past 20 years, without understanding of Prabhupada's orders, that it makes the quote-unquote official opening of this quote-unquote change door most ominous for the future, in ways we can't even imagine. And the Lilamrita interviews were interviews with Ramesvara Prabhu, and these interviews were also leaked out a couple of years ago from the Bhaktivedanta archives. Actually, this was done by blackmail, and the official story tells that they were accidentally found, but actually they were blackmailed out. I have this from confidential sources. Now the next quote. An absolute position has to be reached so that before we die, we know that within the BBT and ISKCON there would never again be one single change, for any reason, ever made to Srila Prabhupada's books. From confidential email number 2. The responsible publishing RP paper was either a significant misleading or a significant historical inaccuracy. There are sites which claim to list more than 5,000 changes. Certainly, there were thousands of changes. The RP paper states that every change to the translations was reviewed and approved by the trustees, leading ISKCON devotees, the GBC, etc. Later, the RP cites or implies in its endorsements that all the changes were approved. Of course, no one other than the editors ever saw back in 1981 or 1982 all the changes. So Rameswara Prabhu is simply saying that this is a lie or this is an inaccuracy, that no one saw all these changes, actually. And we are talking about the changes to the 83 Bhagavad-gita. So no one saw all these changes, only the editors. I've always admitted that my great failure as a trustee was not carefully reading every proposed change and instead relying on the endorsement of Hridayananda and Satsvarup along with Jayadvaita. So Rameswara Prabhu is admitting his mistake. The mistake he made as a role as a BBT trustee, in his role as a BBT trustee. I know that in talking years ago with other on that committee, that they also admitted performing only a cursory review of the proposed changes. So Rameswara Prabhu has spoken with other trustees at that time and also others on that committee that was supposed to review the changes, that actually they didn't do a serious job. They just made a cursory review. And then, no one back then did their job or acted with full responsibility for what they were endorsing. I assure you that no one on that committee ever even asked to see all the changes. And we would have been astounded to have learned in 1981 or 1982 that there were thousands or maybe more than 5,000 changes. I lazily assumed that the work done on manuscripts as close to the original as possible was the only thing that mattered. I failed to consider all the other Prabhupada instructions, the ramification for making changes, if they didn't ultimately change the meaning. The effect of changes that in some cases loses the flavor of the Gita we had been studying for 10 years, and most importantly, that breaks the etiquette of changing a Sampradaya-acharya's books after his disappearance and opens the change door, quote-unquote, quote, change door, for possible future other changes over the decades and centuries to come. The RP paper implies that the changes were carefully reviewed and approved throughout the leadership of the BBT, GBC, and ISKCON. I am certain that by interviewing all the leaders of that time, we would find most guilty of the same mistake that I made. It is true to state that the leaders of ISKCON at the time endorsed the changes. However, it is overtly misleading to state or suggest that the leaders actually performed a careful review. And getting back to the fact that there are thousands of changes, no leader, including the BBT trustees, was ever shown every single change. No one. That is the sad historical fact. And then from confidential email number 3. I find it embarrassing that on the site bbtedit.com, in the section about editing posthumously, the only quote to support touching the works of a departed Acharya is that Srila Jiva Goswami was working posthumously on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Seriously, how can any living entity compare themselves to Srila Jiva Goswami or think because he touched the work of Srila Rupa Goswami, therefore an editor in the lower stages of Bhakti, not yet fully situated in the perfected stages of Bhava, what to speak of Prema, can touch the change the words of a departed Sampradaya Acharya. Not a good example in my lowly view. It begs the question of what our editors think of themselves and their level of Krishna consciousness. Oh well. And actually this example is also, it's not a good example because Srila Jiva Goswami was given that work. It was given to him. And it was actually like, it was put in his hands to finish it. So he had a right, and actually he also in the introduction he actually apologizes for working on it. So this is not at all the same as the Advaita Swami's changes to Bhagavad-gita or the BBT International's changes to Srila Prabhupada's books, because they don't write on the books that they have changed anything. So these leaked emails, you can find them on this website here, or you can find them actually here as a PDF and Word document here. So thank you very much for watching, and please consider what is actually being said here. These are profound knowledge. It's a very profound inside information about the changes of Srila Prabhupada's books, about what actually happened, or more, to be more precise, what did not happen. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please share this information with your friends on Facebook and social media. Thank you for watching. Hare Krishna.